clean, minimalistic is still something I pursue, but I want to also kind of push the envelope forward and show things that maybe people in the big game realm don't necessarily pursue. Photography first, antlers second. I'd rather shoot a small buck, a doe, in a really nice setting, being able to be creative, than a big buck in just a messy, bad setting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wild Shutter Podcast. I'm Matthew Gehly. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to have a special guest with us today, Matt Hanson. Matt is a wildlife photographer who prioritizes creating artistic images that showcase the beauty, drama, elegance, and humor and uniqueness of his subjects, and especially whitetail deer. Hunting was an important part of his childhood, as you can see there, always sporting some kind of antlers. And so hunting was an important part of his childhood that has led to a better understanding and knowledge of his subjects. Matt's whitetail deer images are often used by outdoor industry leaders, including, and there's a huge list, and I won't give you all of them, but here's a couple. Field and Stream, the National Deer Association, Meat Eater, Outdoor Life, Deer and Deer Hunting, Bow Hunter, North American Whitetail, Cabela's, Yeti Coolers, Mossy Oak Gamekeepers, and the list just keeps going on and on. So Matt, welcome to the Wild Shutter Podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out. Everyone's busy, and it's not easy to find the time sometimes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was quite the intro, too.
Well, gotta pump your tires a little bit before we get started.
Before you deflate them.
So,
how's it going?
It's going great. It's great to have you here. And I think that anyone who would look at your Instagram or your website and see your portfolio, it's pretty obvious that your specialty is whitetail deer. So has it always been whitetail deer, or did that kind of morph into a specialty as you got started in your career?
Yeah, that kind of changed over time. I really was into birds when I started. Well, started with real equipment and such. I'll take you back, origin story kind of. Didn't really do much with photography growing up, but then in high school, moved to Europe. And so just got a point and shoot and started getting really into the different tourist spots and landscapes. And then we actually lived right next to the Battle of Waterloo. So I would just drive there and get sunset pics, and just was enamored with the sky. And then college and such came along, and I really got into it more. Went to college in Boston, so got into cityscapes there, like long exposure type stuff. And then really with wildlife, started with birds. I feel that's natural progression with wildlife photographers. There's so many species of birds, so many different subjects you can do, so many habitats. So really started with birds, and then kind of moved on, lived in the DC area and had a really good spot there for deer, and really started concentrating on deer after that.
Wow. So you've been all around. Where did you originate from? Where were you born?
Yeah, so born in Kentucky, but only lived there briefly. Then Brazil, 2 to 6. Then Michigan, kindergarten to 10th grade. So I've always really called that home since I grew up there. Then Belgium, Boston, Texas, DC, South Carolina, Michigan.
And you've ended up back in Michigan. So were you a military kid, I'm guessing?
No, it was business related. Okay.
Wow.
Yep. But so like my grandparents are based here, and then my family, and then my wife's family is here. So
I guess thinking about your whitetail photography, do you travel a lot for that, or is there a decent population where your home base is?
Michigan is good. Have had EHD and some poaching issues the last few years. I had some really good spots in Michigan locally. But yes, I also travel in 23, 6 or 7 states for deer. So yeah, definitely traveling around. I'll hit at least one spot for velvet and then do just one after the other in the fall.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So is there a particular, and I'm not asking for GPS coordinates here or anything, but is there a particular state? Is there a particular state that you enjoy?
Favorite state?
Yeah.
I really like out west just because we don't get mountains around here. I guess you have some mountains in Pennsylvania, but those snow-capped mountains, those wide open spaces is really neat for me. This past year, got to photograph on some new family property in North Carolina. And that was really cool. Just an experiment, completely different subjects that no one else had access to, and kind of getting them to get used to me. First few days, it was a disaster, but then you kind of learn how to maneuver, where to sit kind of thing, what you can get away with. And then it became a really cool experience. So I'm always looking for new spots to try to add a new spot or new state almost every year. So hopefully this next year I can do the same.
Well, that's awesome. If I'm remembering correctly too, I think you may have photographed a bear while you were there on that family property.
Yes. Yes. So that was in June when I was just going down just to hang out. But then, so that's when the bear happened. Really nice fern setting. Yeah, that was an awesome God moment that I had nothing to do with. It just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the perfect spot. But then I went back in August for velvet deer.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember scrolling
bears.
Yeah.
I have some questions for you.
Well, I remember scrolling Instagram and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no antlers on this thing. So yeah.
I've gotten bad on Instagram for just posting deer and turkey. I used to try to like every other one, but I don't know, maybe I'll get back into that.
Yeah.
Do random subjects. Every New Year's, I'm like, all right, I'm going to shoot birds again. I'm going to shoot this stuff. And then I'm just like, oh, but I have all my great setups for deer.
Well, that's awesome. So you talked about velvet. Is there a time of year that you really prefer? I mean, the rut is kind of an obvious one, maybe, but is there a favorite time to be photographing deer for you?
Yeah, I would say winter. The rut's great because peak physical form, you have the fall colors, you have all the behaviors, but just my style naturally is more minimalist. I like everything clean and in order, and snow really helps with that, especially with deer, brown subject, it's white, it just looks awesome. Unfortunately, this year we barely, but some years you have like 2022, I think I went 4 states in a row. All November was completely snow covered. So that was awesome. But it's not always the easiest to get clean spots. So that's always my top. And then fall and summer are pretty close. There's something about that, like summer heat, summer light and velvet that's really nice, even though the bugs are awful. But it makes a really nice result. So I guess those are kind of close to second for me after winter.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you're able to get that nice light on that velvet and really show just the texture of it, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So what's your favorite time of year for shooting? Early summer?
Well, for whitetails, for me, because of what I have relatively local to me, there's a metro park that I like to shoot at, and it seems that it's mostly doe all year, and then at the rut all the bucks start coming in.
Bucks streaming.
Yeah, so that's my favorite time, just because of that for whitetail deer. Yeah.
How about for obviously bear.
Yeah, that's
like bear more than deer. So
yeah. So really, it takes a lot of traveling for me to photograph bear. So I'm a teacher, so I have the summer available to me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So early June sometimes, but usually for me the time that I can really get away is right before I come back to work, and that's like August, which is the bears are usually fattening up by that point. Obviously, you love spring cubs if you can get the time to go and do that. But August for me has been maybe my time that I'm able to get away and actually do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans of taking a trip out west for bear? Near future?
Back in 2019, my family, we had a pull behind camper travel trailer. Okay. So we took a trip out west. We went to the Tetons in Yellowstone and did all that. And that was our first experience photographing grizzlies. Lucked out the first day we were there, got there in the evening and turned down a road, and there was 2 cubs that had just been kicked off. So those were the only 2 we ever saw.
Oh, wow.
But we had relatively close opportunities. Woke up the next morning, got them in the snow, which was phenomenal.
Oh, so awesome.
I don't know that I really got any great images from the experience, but it was an awesome experience. And sometimes that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
So I don't know if this is true or not, but I thought that it was you that I had read at one point. You really try your best to like not crop more than like 5 or 10% on your images. Was that you that said that at one point?
Yeah. There's exceptions, and obviously anything I submit, don't crop it all. Let the editors do that. But when you asked that email, I actually went through some of my top portfolio shots, and I have a list here. All right. So the big vapor cloud one is 0%. Vapor cloud number 2 of the buck walking, 4.5%. Golden foreground one, I think I sent to you as well. That's 5.5. Lip curl with the green and the fog, which I sent you, is 0. Mountain profile, which right now is the first one, is 0. Wide buck walking in snow, 11. Big leap image, broadside is 10. Close tree with the eye in between the trees is 0. The bucks on green sparring, the field and stream cover is 6.6. And I looked, my top one is the tail up running vertical, and that's 22.3. So it's definitely the max by a lot. But yes, it's all between 0 and 11 for the most part.
Yeah. So is that, I mean, obviously the image quality is going to be better, but is that just an artistic choice that you make in your mind that you're not even going to bother unless you can be close enough to be able to do this?
I'll still try to approach subjects, and I'll still photograph from farther away because they can be used for various means elsewhere, either online or editorial, like a 2-page spread. You want the subject smaller on one side, and then you get all the text on the other side. So I'll still shoot it, but ideally for what I'm looking for, I don't crop it that much. You get lose quality.
But yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of a standard thing that I've gotten used to.
So are you using prime lenses, I assume?
Mostly. My favorite 2 are the 300 2.8 and then the 600 f4. I do have my walk around lens is the 2 to 500 5.6, which is a solid lens for the price for sure. Mm-hmm. And I like the 2 to 400 f4. I haven't used that in a few years, but that used to be my favorite. That one was with that lens. Those are pretty much the ones
Okay. So you do have some maneuverability then. It's not all prime, so you can zoom and so the crop happens a little bit, but you're able to make some adjustments in the field.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. I have 74 images on my portfolio right now. I looked up The 300 2.8 was 29 of them. The 600 was 19 of them. And then the 2 to 400 was 13 of them. And then 3 other lenses made up the last 13. So definitely favor the 300, just especially out east with all the trees and woods. The 600's too much, too dark. But for out west, that 600 is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weighted so perfectly. Like you can handhold it, no problem.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting, like thinking about, the restraints that you would have, not wanting to crop much at all, which no one does, right? And then like if you only were using like say a 400, like all of these shots, it would have to be like just perfect conditions every single time.
Everything perfect, yeah, which doesn't happen.
No, not at all. So, while we're talking about that kind of thing, I asked you to send 3 pictures, and I love how you organize those pictures. So our audience knows, Matt sent me 3 pictures and titled them, I should say organized them, My Original Style Photography, My Best Moment, and then My Future. So the original style is a beautiful, like soft, light, really love the colors that you have there with the lip curl. So maybe tell me a little bit about capturing that image and this style of photography that you originally started with.
Yeah, so that, what I mentioned a little bit before, really pursue minimalist, clean frames. So everything in its place. I think that one's framed between the subject's framed between 2 background evergreens. Really no distractions, nothing kind of intersecting the subject at all to distract you. And the mist definitely helped to create that kind of magical, clean moment. So that's what I'm always looking for. You'll see it in a bunch of my portraits. I really like lack of distractions, just all the attention on the subject, the light, foreground, background blurred as much as possible. So that's really, I guess that kind of came along because I was using these kit lenses when I started with birds, and I kept looking at these top bird photographers. I was like, goodness, it's so creamy. Like, how do they do this? So I kind of figured out how to recreate that with a lesser lens. And then when I switched to all these good lenses, it was just like, wow, this is incredible. How easily everything melts away and all the attention's on the subject.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say all it takes is money, but that's not even true. All it takes is some knowledge, because people say that all the time. Oh, if I had that camera, or the famous line is, your camera takes really nice pictures, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's not as simple as just pointing and shooting. You have to know what you're doing whenever you have the proper equipment. So, but learning through a kit lens definitely
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really taught me to concentrate. Obviously, you want to look at your subject, but after you see your subject, you're really looking for foreground and background. You're really looking, how do I manage this foreground to make it as good as possible, as creative as possible, and then what in the background can I use to frame, or are there distractions? Are there highlights that I do not want, so I'll move left or right? You're immediately thinking in those terms rather than just looking at a deer like, oh, those are antlers, and then you end up cutting off their feet out of excitement and then cutting off.
That's what this guy does. Yeah, I do that all the time. And it's like, oh, you get back and you're looking at it, you're like, why did I do that? I will say though that mirrorless has me, the eye tracking. It allows me to worry more about my composition a little bit more, and that's the beauty of it, that you can do that and kind of think about not cutting off the feet a little bit differently than you were before.
Yeah, I'd probably switch either this year or next year, but you have to deal with a whole bunch of different stuff. How good is the eye tracking? Because I've heard on like in-flight birds, it's pretty awesome. Is it pretty good with big mammals as well?
It just depends. Sometimes, like, I feel like, especially shooting in a wooded area, you're struggling. Now, the way I have my camera set up is that I have 2 back button autofocuses. One is the eye tracking, and then one is like a single point. So that helps sometimes, that you're able to kind of use the single point to almost tell it where the subject is, and then switch over to the eye tracking. So there's little tricks that you can do to kind of help the technology learn what to do. So and maybe even going along those lines, thinking about, you know, the buzzword, and I don't think it's going away at all, is AI. You know, we're being bombarded by AI technology, and I think there's a lot of good things with it. Do you see that as a positive or negative for wildlife photography?
Both. Definitely a positive to showcase the beauty and wonder of the world and kind of maximize it for the consumer. As long as the photographer is upfront about what they're doing, or videographer, I think that's fine. I think there's going to be a muddy area for a while about people not coming clean about it, or kind of passing it off as real when it's not necessarily real. But I think overall, you kind of, like you said, it's not going anywhere. So try to look at the positives of it. I guess people probably felt this way when film switched to digital as well. So, and there are gonna probably be some really good aspects, printing larger and things of that nature. We're not actually changing the scene, but I do know there are some aspects where it's actually formulating a scene that was never there to add to your subject, and that's kind of a gray area.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I struggle with, you know, sometimes there's something you want to get rid of, and to be honest, I'm absolutely terrible with Photoshop. I use it for certain things, but to be able to take an image in there and mask something and get rid of it and do it the old-fashioned way, if I want to remove a branch or something like that, I can't do it. I do go into my images sometimes and remove something that I don't want to be there using the new AI generation tool. And I think a lot of people do that. And I debate myself, though, is that really the okay thing to do? Like, if you're trying to stay completely natural.
I mean, you just came clean with it, so yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I like that then.
Yeah, I think I posted a bunch on Instagram. I don't, of raw compared to final. That's one thing I don't do with my deer images. I don't add or remove anything. It just kind of keeps me. I talked about this with Jason Loftus a few months ago. Kind of keeps me honest, just me personally, because once I start, I don't know when or how I'll stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of keep it. Obviously, I do sliders and I do color and contrast and dodge and burn. But just for me, I try to keep it at that, keep the scene as is. Yeah. And it keeps your eye kind of training to see that stuff in the field. And sometimes just a slight 6 inches to the left or right can completely change where a branch is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like we said, it's not going anywhere. One thing that I really think is fantastic, though, is the ability to be able to shoot at high ISOs and then be able to clean that up, especially for someone like me that, you know, I don't have a 2.8, well, I have the 70 to 200, but I can't get too close with that.
Right.
But, you know, if you're not shooting with a 400 2.8, sometimes your light is a little bit limited and you don't have a choice. Yeah. You're shooting at high ISOs, and it's nice to be able to put it into topaz or whatever and be able to clean it up a little bit. Right. Of course, if you're working in the industry as you are, I don't know that you want to have to do that too often to sell to a publisher. So,
I mean, the cameras are just incredible with ISO these days as well. I used to not be able to print anything over like 1250, and now 2500 is nothing. Just out of habit, I really don't shoot over that. but I know some people are shooting at 6,000 and it's clean. Like, it's fine. It's pretty remarkable what's happened the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, it really is. And every day someone's releasing a new camera that's going to do something even crazier.
I did have a question on the denoise stuff, because I haven't used Topaz in I did a trial like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I was always paranoid about like where background meets subject. Like, you lose fine detail there. Is that still the case?
Yeah, they have, like, you can click and it'll find the subject, so you can just like denoise a background or just sharpen a subject or however you want to do it. And they actually have, and I honestly don't use them that much, but there are tools within Topaz that allow you to fine tune that mask. But I think that anyone that uses that stuff kind of does it realizing that it's kind of going to be an imperfect art, if you want to call it that. Like, it's not going to, maybe if you spend hours and hours, you're going to get it down to the pixel, but.
Right. Okay. I always wonder that, because, I guess I would rather grain than some messy in between no man's land between subject and background.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and depending on what you're using your images for, sometimes I see images on my cell phone, on social media, and you're like, holy cow, how'd they get it that sharp? But I'm pretty confident that if you saw the real image and you zoomed in and pixel peeped, it doesn't look anything like that.
Right.
So that's, AI is giving us the opportunity to fake things a little bit, I guess, sometimes. And like we talked just now, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I know that I don't like whenever I see these images that are, I don't know, a Facebook account that might be called like Owl Lovers or something. And they have this obviously AI generated owl that doesn't even exist in the real world. And people, they comment on it. Oh, that's so beautiful. Is it? It's
what
a
rare species that doesn't exist.
But
that's funny.
So, all of this being said, what advice, because I'm sure people come to you all the time, what advice do you have for someone who is just getting started in wildlife photography? What's the one thing you tell them, do this first?
Yeah. Look at images, and don't just look at images, look at good images. It's hard these days with social media to know what's good and not good from a artistic and creative standpoint, just because something not that great could get 500,000 likes and views, so you think that's good. Look at the best images you can and kind of train your eye to, at first, go in the field and try to emulate what you're seeing out of those really good images. When I was coming up, Mark Raycroft and then Don Jones were two people I would just spend hours looking through their photo libraries, being like, okay, this is why this works. This composition is going vertical because the subject's facing me, there are trees in the background, you want those vertical lines. This is a broadside, horizontal, walking into the frame. I would just look image after image, see why something works, and then try to emulate that. After you do that enough, you'll kind of create your own techniques, your own style in the field, and you'll start to go away from what you used to be seeing and just concentrate on what you can do better personally and kind of hone what you prefer, what you like, and go from there. So that's the number one thing, is memorize, look at as many images as you can.
Study.
Yes, study.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And maybe something I'd throw into that, I think it's easy as you're doing something like that to get frustrated with your own work as you're learning, and you're looking at these other images and you're coming home and you're thinking, man, it just doesn't look good. doesn't even compare. Well, whenever you're first starting out, we have this fast food mentality in our culture that we want everything to be perfect and everything to be right instantly, and it's definitely not going to work that way, especially with wildlife photography. As you were talking about your first image, I was thinking about that you know, you were trying to, like, talking about positioning yourself, maybe moving 6 inches to the right, or the background was just nice and soft with the fog and all of that stuff. And what's so challenging about wildlife photography, and maybe why we like it so much, is that there's not like a couple holding, you know, embracing each other, posing for you in that field that are just going to wait until you have your settings and everything all right. So the moments are just so few and far between, and it's just makes those times that all comes together that much more magical.
Yeah, much more worth it. Yes. Moments are fleeting, and all of us have those moments that we wish we could get back. We were just 3 seconds faster or something like that. Yeah,
for sure.
It's just like golf. You're miserable for 17 holes, and you make birdie, and you're like, all right, I'll do it again tomorrow.
Something keeps you going back out. So whenever you go out, are you typically going out with particular shots in mind, or I guess you have clients, are you going out to capture particular images for a client, or are you just building a portfolio that you can then market to a client? Or does it work both ways?
Both, definitely both. So I have always up front, I'm thinking best possible image for this scenario. So that's what I'm always trying to get. But then once either a subject is stable and you can kind of tell they're not going anywhere, or the setting's nice, then you start flying through your list. Here, let's do some verticals, let's do some horizontals, let's back off, more room in the frame, backlight, front light. Then you can kind of manicure a situation to fit all these various needs. But my first thing is always the best possible image for a scenario.
Makes sense. Like, as we said, we can't control exactly how that subject's going to operate for us. So do what you can first, and then work from that point. And
some subjects you get 20 seconds with, you get 3 frames with. Some subjects you get an hour with. So it all just depends on subject and situation.
Is there a particular season or kind of image that your clients tend to prefer, or is it just all over the map?
I was looking at different hair sheets and sales, and I'd pretty much split full body to like half body. So both of those. I personally prefer full body, but I know a lot of people like the close, tight headshot. More space in the frame, like I said, interior stuff. If you're going to have writing or you need room to format, you want to need more space. Even with the tight stuff, leave an extra 10-20%, because 2x3 is not the format in most cases. So you want to keep that. As for times a year, fall's by far the most, and then winter and summer. Winter probably more so than summer. But definitely keep either the rut, all the different behavior. Fawns, which I love shooting fawns. They're so photogenic and cute, but at least for me, they do not sell anywhere near as much as anything else. I had one request today, but that was a fluke, I think, just because I was going on here and you were going to ask that question.
Yeah,
but keep on shooting fawns just for yourself. But
that's right.
You probably won't go many places.
I'm still after that classic shot of the fawn curled up with the grass all around it. Still haven't had that opportunity, so still after it.
It's only a few days a year. They get mobile so fast.
Absolutely. And then they get the zoomies.
Yeah. Which are also fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Place in the Virginia mountains is really good for fawns, if anyone wants to do their research on that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just say it, but
So how much has the industry changed as far as like what your clients, I guess I'm thinking like print magazines, that isn't, I'm guessing, nearly as prevalent as it was maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Are you doing a lot of products, like graphics for products or advertisements that are going to be digital?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of that. So yeah, that lack of circulation and print really hurts. Everything's cutting down as well. Instead of every month or every other month, now they're quarterly. A lot of places. Field and Stream just announced they're coming back to print, so that's exciting. They were gone for 4 years, now they're coming back. Yeah, different product ads, banners for trade shows. I just got a request for a target with like Whitetail things for target practice. So you want to look for a bunch of random stuff in that realm, but then online actually added kind of a sales opportunity that wasn't there before. So I have a fair amount of people that buy just for online, either advertising or just even social media. Will do bulk sales, and they get 20 images to either use on their website or on Instagram, Facebook to advertise what they're looking to advertise. And so that's a lot of bulk sales, which is good. You got to kind of prioritize. You have your A1 stuff, which some of my stuff I haven't even sent to anyone because I'm saving it for that perfect request, perfect opportunity. Then you kind of have your B-roll stuff, then all the way down. So you kind of maximize your usage depending on the photo shoot. Like I said earlier, you're shooting different things for different people. So you can kind of figure out those different avenues, even though the traditional print is shrinking for sure. It's still out there though.
That's cool that Field and Stream's coming back. You know, sometimes it's nice just to hold a physical magazine or a book in your hand and like flip a page and just get that tactile feeling again. You know, sometimes it's nice to see that print.
Yeah, I hope that as like hunting hipsters get older, they'll want that more. So the price tag will be there to make sense for everyone to start printing again.
Well, you don't always have a service, you know, a cell signal, so you can take that magazine with you into the mountains and just look at it as you're.
And that's one of the things when I was younger. Just in the hunting blind, going through those magazines, I was like, wow, these images are incredible. These guys are rock stars. Mm-hmm. And now here I am. I'm like, I am not a rock star. But it's still pretty cool. Still pretty cool.
Yeah, the Matt Hanson portfolio is pretty incredible.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And if you can't, don't feel bad. But I was looking at your list of clients, and there were two that I was really intrigued by, like maybe what your images were used for. So one of them was Pawn Stars.
Oh, so this wasn't even a deer image.
Okay.
So it was a strobe photography image. So I used to teach a class that when you do like underwater strobe stuff, like you get the splash and everything. And then I started messing with smoke. So it was actually an image of a cigar in a wine cellar. And they used it for one of their trivia questions.
Okay.
Before,
as they would go to a commercial. Yeah.
They had and it was the image on the side, and then the questions are to the right. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Awesome. And then the other one was Capital One.
Oh, that was an alligator photo, actually.
Okay.
Or a banner they had going.
I wondered
so that was.
I wondered if it was like a credit card that they offered with your image on it or something like that.
No, that would have been cool. I think it was more of an advertising thing. So yeah, when I was doing the birds, I forgot to mention I I lived in Texas for a year, and alligators were everywhere. So I had like 6 months where I got super into alligator.
Dinosaur photography.
Yeah, exactly. I had one come hit my lens once, but it was just a small little guy.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's crazy, though.
You pretend or you forget they're not dogs, because when you're around them so often, you really lose your fear of them, which is not a good idea.
No, not at all. There's a lot of teeth in that mouth.
Yeah.
So as we're talking here, I'm forgetting that we're supposed to be looking at some of your images. So I was hoping that you would pick the breath image here for your best moment. I remember seeing a story on Instagram whenever you took this, where I think you went back to your car and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened. So want to tell us the story behind it a little bit?
Yeah, so that was November 14th, 2018, one of my favorite spots way up north. Very cold. Even in November, if you see a vapor cloud shot I have, most likely it's from there. And this buck I had seen the past few days, and overnight it maybe snowed an inch, not much, but enough that everything was covered, and clear blue sky. But in the woods, that sun doesn't peek out until it's at least an hour after daylight. So you have enough time to locate a subject and get with them. And actually, I think I posted the whole raw sequence on Instagram once and highlighted which one it was, but there was a doe fawn that walked in between me and the buck, and that's why the buck was looking in my direction. So that was completely a God thing, that just this perfect setup, perfect. I was end of the woods, and then there was a clearing, and then there's woods behind him. So there's nothing directly behind him. So I got nice separation between the background and the subject, and that allowed the light to come in perfectly. And so everyone thinks he's looking at me, and I think he probably did look at me once he heard the shutter. But it was that doe fawn that walked in between, that got his head snapped to my direction, and then just,
Wow.
It was just, everything fell into place. And just the shakes after that, they say like buck fever and stuff. It's, I spent a lot of time in front of big bucks, and I prioritize the photos more than antlers, but the shakes I got after that, it was probably a 45-minute walk back to the car, and I was just beside myself.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
man.
it was a pretty cool moment. So when I go out, I always am praying, even 10 years in, 12 years in, Lord, keep my hands fast and steady, and keep my mind and eyes sharp and creative. And that happened on that day. And then just the thankfulness you feel afterwards is just unbelievable. I've never done heroin, but if it's anything similar, I can see why it's an issue, because just the adrenaline rush and the endorphins is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that feeling. He's had a moment like that.
And as you were talking about that, like you said, it's a God moment. It's where just you're being blessed by all of that just coming together. You know, you think about how many times these scenes might unfold and we're not there to see them.
Yeah.
And then
every day.
And then you get an opportunity sometimes to see that happen, and it's incredible.
Yeah. The most overused term in photography is once in a lifetime. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, no, this happens every day around the world. We just live in an amazing world, and we are very blessed to be out there to capture some of it and do our best to capture some of it.
Someone wrote that phrase underneath one of my shots one time, that's a once in a life. And my initial thought whenever I heard that phrase was, I hope not.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's true too. You want to be looking forward, not back.
Yeah. I'm always, I think everyone thinks this, that my favorite shot's the one I haven't taken yet. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't keep going out. I'd just sit at home. So
Yep.
I'm always just excited. Sometimes you have no idea. You always have no idea what's going to unfold before you, and that's why I go out, because I want to see what there is. You're not going to see it if you sit on the couch.
Exactly.
So, I again really like how you organize these images. So the last one, in the golden, beautiful light with the great foreground, you called this my future. So as we look at your three images, you really do see yourself changing maybe as a photographer. Not that you're not going to take those same images anymore, but do you find yourself looking for this different style of shot a bit more out in the field?
Yes, I do. It's not, I'm not going to say it's boring, because like a perfectly, nothing perfect in photography, but a very nicely designed image, clean, minimalistic, is still something I pursue. But I want to also kind of push the envelope forward and show things that maybe people in the big game realm don't necessarily pursue. As I said, photography first, antlers second. I'd rather shoot a small buck, a doe, in a really nice setting, being able to be creative, than a big buck in just a messy, bad setting. So I would like to continue to kind of look for ways to create something new. In that particular image you mentioned, just foreground, saw the light just shimmering off of this foreground.
Yeah.
And I just tried so many things and finally got to a situation where his face was clear and then everything else just kind of sparkles away. And I started trying that last summer with Velvet. There's an image that was similar in style with a bunch of sparkles in the foreground. It's one way I'm looking to kind of progress in the future. Also maybe some smaller in the frame things. I love small in the frame images. They're so effective, but they're so hard, especially on the East Coast, to make work. So that's another avenue that I'm looking to really push moving forward.
Yeah, you're right. I love those small and frame shots, and with our landscape, it's not easy to do. I saw you put on a silhouette shot here recently that was
yesterday.
Just outstanding. Was that out west?
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's where you gotta go.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a field day for your eye and mind if you're from the East and you go out west, just because it's just so foreign to your capabilities, and there's so much space and setting to play with. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's easier, because it has its own challenges. Like getting close to subjects is a lot harder because there's nothing to come in between you and the subject. But it's great as someone who lives in the woods to go out there every once in a while and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mean to move on from this gold image here, but whenever I look at that image too, I just think about, as you mentioned, it's such a challenge with all that foreground to get his face clean, and that's probably what you're looking for most. Like in your viewfinder, you're trying to make sure that you're getting that face without a bunch of stuff in front of it. But then I think the other challenging part about it is not blowing out those highlights, because I'm sure you had to probably underexpose quite a bit to keep that rim light and everything.
That was like 3 minutes before the sun went behind the clouds, so it wasn't that harsh.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely, I'll send you the raw comparison, but yeah, you definitely want to keep an eye on your histogram, especially that last 5 minutes of light. It changes so fast. You're just flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
And I know I closed the aperture down a little, I think, on that, just to make sure I didn't blow his face, because the especially with a little bit of wind, your focus is just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely a trial and error type shot as opposed to this deer standing still. Obviously, this is going to be a in focus portrait.
Well, so you said trial and error. So that kind of leads me to think about spray and pray. And I take a lot of shots. I don't really feel, and maybe someone will look at what I'm doing and be like, oh no, that's what you're doing. But I like to make sure that I get it. I'm like obsessive compulsive that way. Probably a lot of ways my wife would tell you.
Yeah.
But do you take a lot of shots?
Depends on the situation. Probably take a quarter of the shots Hafner takes.
We'll make sure that he hears this.
Yeah. No, it depends on the situation. If it's a kind of straightforward lit scene, I don't. But something like the image we're talking about, yes. I'm doing a whole bunch of different stuff, and I'll fill a whole day's memory card in 10 minutes as opposed to the rest of the day where pretty standard exposure, standard front shot style.
Yeah.
So it all just depends. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, just like you mentioned earlier, micro adjustments can completely change a scene. So the worst feeling is uploading your files and being like, oh no.
Yep.
The whole shoot's just ruined.
Yep. Been there, done that. So
yep, everyone has.
I'm I guess you could, not only am I obsessive compulsive, I'm paranoid. So
that seems like the perfect thing for photography.
Just keep shooting. That's I think Dory said just keep swimming, so I just keep shooting.
Yep. That's good. I think that's one of my strengths as well is I really like things in order and in their spot. So in the field, my mind's just clicking and my eyes, they're seeing all these distractions, and how do I avoid these distractions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, memory's cheap. I'd rather just keep doing it, and then I can delete stuff or not delete stuff later. And
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
So what's up next for Matt Hanson? You said you like to maybe add a new state every year.
Just always on the lookout for new stuff. Turkeys are about to ramp up. I have I guess I'm kind of creating a love for them, but starting out, I didn't really, it was just something to shoot in the spring. And now I'm finding myself really looking forward to it. So I guess that kind of happens when you learn your subjects better and better. So that'll be my next 2 months. And then, we'll see what's up next. Just keep grinding away.
Yeah. No, I love turkeys. I haven't had too many opportunities recently, but they're a lot of fun. Beautiful feathers. Like, people don't really realize how beautiful of a bird they actually are.
Yep, they are. They're so smart, but so dumb. So it's kind of fun.
Now, have you ever been, I don't want to say attacked, but ever have a turkey take an interest in you?
Oh, I've been attacked. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Picking up a branch or keeping your little 5-foot bubble. Yeah. Especially when you lay down. So I really like foreground control. So even my deer shots, I'm prone on the ground a lot, especially with turkeys, because you're kind of trying to eliminate that foreground. When you do that and you're in their way, you better watch out, because they're crazy aggressive.
What do they call the claw on the back?
Oh, the spur? Yeah.
Yeah. That'll do some damage.
Yeah, they'll get you. I have a spot about an hour and 10 minutes away from me that there's one bird that is just nasty. He's a great subject, but he is nasty.
I took a trip with my dad into the Smoky Mountains, and we were just driving around looking for stuff to shoot. He doesn't shoot, but he was just along for the ride. And there was a turkey that I tried to get a couple shots up. Oh my goodness! Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah. I never, because I don't go there to shoot turkeys, but I know a lot of people that do, and they've all had run-ins with him.
Yeah, I've actually seen some videos on social media, I believe, of probably the same turkey.
Yep.
My car was not very far away, and he would not let us get to that car. So we had to keep waiting for people to like come so that we could kind of move a little bit as they were passing. And it took a while to get back into our vehicle.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Me and my buddy Steve, but he beelined someone. This turkey beelined like 200 yards to come after this guy. It's nuts.
Yeah, like what is it about somebody that they just, I don't like them, and they go after you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Craziness. So Matt, tell us a little bit about like where we can find you. If someone wanted to take a look at your images, what's the best place to find your stuff?
Instagram at Hanson Photography. And then my portfolio is whitetaildeerphotography.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then just reach out, matthansonphotography@gmail.com.
I love that website too, whitetaildeerphotography.com. I mean, it's at some point, I'm sure you could sell that thing for a decent mint. That's
I have a lot of domains going to there. I got in online early in the game, so I have like 18 different similar domains that all stream to that.
Oh, nice,
so, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that could be your retirement plan at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
So good
all right,
stuff.
Well, I have some questions for you. Quick fire.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Okay.
And my
Winter
reason
or
for
summer?
that.
Okay.
Let me tell you why, though.
Okay.
Because I don't like whenever the light tells me I have to be done. I will keep shooting whenever the light's bad, just because.
Yeah.
So I don't like the light being totally done and then I can't do it. So I'm sorry.
That's actually a good reason. I haven't thought about it like that. Yeah. Nice. All right. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Okay.
Because I'm off. I'm a teacher, you know.
That's true. Yeah. Someday though, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that snow bug.
Yep.
All right. Wings or pizza?
Pizza. Yeah.
Is it negative?
Yeah, and I'll make it even worse. I like boneless.
All right. Well, that's it for me. I'm just kidding. Vertical or horizontal?
I'm a horizontal guy. I just the way, because I grew up. I teach video, and I grew up shooting like. That was my background. So like I'm always just thinking that way, and then I crop and miss all those megapixels.
Yeah.
So unfortunately.
No, I prefer horizontal as well. And with prints and stuff, it just fits a wall so much better.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Type portrait or environmental?
Probably because of where I shoot, tight portrait, but like we said, small in frame. I love that stuff, and it's just not always possible.
Yeah. Mountains or ocean? Not just photography.
100%.
Mountains.
I hate sand. I hate. No. And I know this is supposed to be quick, but let me tell you a funny story.
Okay. Yeah. Let's hear it.
We always go in the mountains. That's where our family vacations have been for years. So my family finally talked me into going to the beach. So we went to the Outer Banks a couple of years ago. I think it was the first day. I got sun poisoning on the top of my feet. Like who gets sun poisoning on the top of their feet? So for the rest of the trip, we went to the like a dollar store, and I bought these terrible looking socks, and I wore socks on the beach. But I didn't have a choice, or else I'd just be hanging out in the camper the whole time. So yeah.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
All right. Football or baseball?
I played baseball. I really like baseball.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't like to watch baseball anymore, though. The game's not fun to watch.
Yeah. Although they just sped it up with that clock.
Pitch clock.
Pitcher clock.
Yeah.
All right. Silhouette or golden light on subject?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say golden light on subject, but silhouettes are, again, it's one of those things that I haven't had as many opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I like rim light, but with detail and subject, but I'm not like a overly huge fan of silhouettes. So,
Yeah.
yep.
But it's cool to do.
It is. It's effective. And it,
Yeah.
Yep.
Stands out.
Yeah. As I just hosted one. Mac or PC?
PC.
Okay. Charcoal or propane?
Propane.
Okay. And chili, beans or no beans?
No beans, preferably, I guess, but I don't mind them.
Texas style.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are my questions.
Oh, those are great. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I've never had anyone turn the tables on me like that, so that's a good time.
Something different.
Yeah. Well, again, Matt, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here today. Had a great time getting to know you a little bit better. I've always been a big fan of your photography ever since, I found you online years ago. And another thing that I really appreciate is you comment and are kind to so many people online. That takes a lot of time to do. And I see your comments on other people's images, and that just speaks to the kind of person you are, and you're always encouraging people, and I think that's just fantastic. Sometimes in this hobby or profession, I think it's easy to not do that and to have that ego, but you don't get that from Matt Hanson at all. So,
well, I appreciate that. I know when I started, some really talented people were kind to me. So I hope if I could just give someone a little bit of hope that maybe they'll take that next step.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's paying it forward.
Yep.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. So you can check us out on YouTube. You can listen on most audio platforms as well, but I encourage you to watch the YouTube video so you can see Matt's fantastic images. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.